working on doing a head gasket and new push rods, or at least the ones that were fucked up. I had a bent push rod, and the seats underneath were no longer working, or they came undone. The clip came off. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But I got everything lined up here. Valve spring that is messed up on my truck. Here's the head bolt layout, top, bottom. And then there's also one more on the head that I actually forgot when I was pulling it. And then I got it later, but it might have got a little screwed up, but it is what it is. So that's that one. And then right here is the bad valve. That one wasn't moving, wasn't working, because under it, these camshaft rollers came apart. So there's a little lock. This one has the lock. The lock came off and they came apart inside there. So I had to pull the head, put 2 new ones in, and then this goes over them to lock them in. And I think it actually goes like this. So that's straight. This comes towards the front of the motor, or when you drop it in. This is the back. That's straight. But these came off, and I found all the little pieces inside the motor. I think I got them all out now. And then here's the back push rod that was in there. I drove it a lot with this. I don't know how bad or how long the push rod was bent, long enough to scuff it up and leave dents. So it probably was that way for quite a while. But if you don't know, you don't know. Like it didn't feel down on power or nothing. And then one other thing is that piston right there, you can see it's dented from the valve, but it's gonna have to go the way it is because I'm not doing anything with it. So hopefully it's all right. Cylinder walls up here look okay. I'm gonna turn it over by hand a little bit. I do see the fire. Well, they all have that, I guess. There's like a fire ring. It looks about the same. Shit, when did that start? I wonder if that coolant's been dripping all the time. I gotta move that catch can over. But that's a look at this. And then this is the one that was screwed up. So there's those when they're inside the motor. So you know what that looks like. Those seats came off and then they just came undone. So that was that issue. But that's an update. And then this is the head. I pretty much showed you that already. But there's the valve that's messed up. That one wasn't firing. It was stuck or hasn't been used because the rocker arm or whatever up here was never hitting it. And then you do need to hair tie this bolt up out of the way, otherwise it'll stick on stuff. And this is right up against the firewall, but don't forget that bolt. Like I said, I forgot it, and then I had to do it after I already pried this up, and it made that bolt come out a little wonky. I'm hoping it goes in okay, and I got a new head gasket. Yeah, I think these are the actual ones, or this was the actual one that came out of there. The magnets are down in there because I was trying to pull it up and fix it from the top, but that's pretty much impossible. So I had to pull the head gasket off and the head to try to fix that. But I'm gonna try to turn this thing over by hand here soon, and then take a look at the cylinder walls on that one that's got that bent or indent. But no holes, no cracks, so it should still be okay. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it's not gonna be the end of the world for it, I don't think. It was running on 3 cylinders on this side before, and none of the exhaust or intake valves were working. So if it did that, I think it will be okay. But I'll see where I get to today. I'm hoping to have it back together today, but I don't know how much of a project it really is to line back up and keep that head gasket good and all that. leaking for a while. And then that magnet down there, the one piece that did fall out, when I was trying to put it back in, it fell down into the motor. Luckily, I believe it hit the bottom of the oil pan. I can hear it on that magnet. Because when I put this, I got one of these back together from the top side when the head was on, and then I figured I'd start it like that, and I put it together wrong. That's when I went to the parts motor the next day and started undoing stuff and seeing how it was truly built and put together. And that's when I found the little spring in here. The spring would go in here first. Then you'd have these two pieces and a shim. Here's the shim. That would go in after the spring. And I put the spring inside the metal piece that slides in there, not knowing, because I didn't know how it went together. Plus, it would have been impossible to do that spring from the top side. So when I started it back up, it was knocking, and it wasn't until the next day I took it apart, the parts truck, and found out that that wasn't put together right. So I took that rocker arm and push rod out, and the knock stopped. And that's when I decided I'm going to try to do the head and see if it fixes it. I guess oil doesn't matter if it goes down in there, probably. These coolant passages are oil right here. If anybody knows, put it down in the comments. I would think it's oil because it's got that mechanical device, and yeah, these should be coolant, and then I would think oil comes up through there. So a little oil getting back down in there is not going to hurt it. But you can leave that down in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about that piston being indented like that. I don't think it's too bad. Like I said, it's not cracked, so there's no holes in it. I'm gonna go ahead and try turning this over by hand, or possibly bumping it with the starter because I'm lazy. And I'll just jump the starter from the panel over there to get it to turn over enough to pull this piston down so I could see how the cylinder wall is. You can see these are scuffed up a little, but they're not bad. Like, I don't see any serious gouging. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at. And then to get this valve spring out, because I need the new one, I tried this clamp, but that was just kind of sliding off. I'm gonna have to try to do it for putting it back on. But I got this 15/16. I laid that on there like that, and then I just smacked it with a hammer real quick, and that unseated this one. So that's what I'll be doing. Or to get it off, that's what you can do. But to put it back on, you can't really do that because you got to have this thing pushed down so you can put your magnet pieces or whatever, these little shim locks in. But to get it out, the mallet trick with that 15/16 on top worked. So that's an idea if you have that issue. As far as getting it off, getting it on, I didn't want to spend the 60 bucks because this was 10 bucks. The actual tool was 60, and I already have way too much money into this truck. Plus, I don't know 100% if this is going to actually fix it. But the bottom looked all good as far as I can tell. I don't know if I'm going to replace this whole piece. Probably not. Probably just the shim or just the spring. But I'll get it out and see, and I'll go from there. Get all this head gasket material cleaned up. Probably stay away from the seal for this plenum, because you can see there's different gasket maker there for that. And just, yeah, try to get this thing back together. But yeah, that piston must have came down on this when it was somewhat compressed. Maybe the rocker arm had pushed down on that at one time, and that's how it hit the piston so hard. And if my terms or whatever I'm calling these things aren't correct, this is all new to me. This is the first time I pulled the head off. This is the first time I've done head gasket. So I'm just learning. So far, so good. We'll see how it turns out. I'll keep you updated, but I wanted to get a good video of this all apart. One, for knowledge for myself, two, to help others. And yeah, see how it goes. And you probably won't have this. This is the FRX kit. And I JB welded that because it's really close to the header. I didn't want it to leak. I didn't like how close it was to the exhaust. But there's a look at the head. And then you got to pull the power steering, loosen that up, get the alternator out of your way. All the bolts, the exhaust for the up pipe. And then mainly that rear bolt that I told you about that I have right here is hard to get to and easy to forget. That's the worst one. All these other ones are pretty simple. They're, yeah, pretty simple on that. You can see those from topside. But I'm gonna get back to work on this, try to figure out getting this valve out, and then get that done so the top's done, and then I'll start cleaning up all the old gasket and go from there.